I would say that I'm pretty genuinely interested in the things that I photograph. Like there is a real kind of attraction for those things. There's a lot in photography for me, there's a lot about that, about attraction, about desire, about wanting to possess something, but ultimately you never possess any of those things because then they start existing as their own thing. It's taking, but it's also giving back. Photographing in the studio and then photographing in the world are two completely different approaches, but they do speak to each other in that way, where the moment of mutual recognition is usually when I know that that is the photograph. And it's a really, it's a feeling that is, I think, difficult to put in words, because I would say that when I collect, this is something that happens as well when I collect materials. For the various collections that live in the studio, there is that moment of recognition as well, where you see the thing that you were looking for, but that thing has also seen you. And that it's such a fine, like minute thing that happens. I think when we talk about time or history or memory, and I think we've talked often about timelessness, but it's something else almost. It's almost like the opposite of timelessness. It's like too much time. It's like this very peculiar compression of all these different layers of time and spaces. I'm looking at those spaces also as an artist and not as a historian. You know, of course I have like some knowledge of the history, and this is something that I constantly research and think about, but there is a distinction with going to these spaces and looking at something as an artist rather than as a historian or as an expert on Greek sculpture. Specifically, I would say the Greek photographs or the photographs of the ruins is maybe like a long-term project that kind of fits inside of, you know, my general practice, but I think this is something that I'll keep doing over several years. There's something about going to a place and taking photographs and coming back and then that's it. That's the end of the thought process that really doesn't work for me. Like there is this kind of continuum that needs to happen. And I would say that generally in my work, everything kind of functions in a sort of continuum. Like one thing leads to another and then leads to another, and then there's often these kind of cycles back where I'll think about a similar idea that I've explored in the past in a different way because things always are changing, and maybe that's kind of goes back with this idea of something being unfixed. I think there's that openness or that unfixedness is really, really important. Some images in the Parisian Laundry show that were shown in the fall at the Escrow Foundation in Calgary. And they were in different configurations spatially. They were in different pairings with each other. So to see some of that work come back in this kind of other form changes the work. And that's, I love that, actually. I really, really love that. Sometimes there are no words for things. Sometimes there's just like a photograph for that idea, you know, and yes, sometimes there's no words, there's just photographs.